Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Stuart Close Philosophy, and we were discussing the chapter The Schools of Philosophy. We are on concluding part of this chapter. Many aspects related with the materialistic school of philosophy, the idealistic school of philosophy, as well as the substantialistic school of philosophy we have discussed in length. So materialists used to think materially, looking towards the physical aspects of the human being. Idealists looking towards only the dynamic side of the human being, not taking into consideration the physical body. Both of them fails to explain the holistic concept of human being. And that's why both of them are not able to come to certain conclusions or understanding regarding the human being. What is needed is the understanding both the physical as well as psychological, dynamic, mental, spiritual, and the philosophy which takes into consideration both the sides of the coin is the substantialistic school of philosophy. Hahnemann is one of them who used to take into consideration both the sides of the human life, and that's why he developed his whole science based upon the substantialistic school of philosophy. He was following Lord Bacon thoroughly throughout his life. He has followed Lord Bacon's method of inductive reasoning, which follows four criteria: the exact observation, correct interpretation, scientific construction, and rational explanation. And throughout his life, he followed that and he developed the homeopathy and homeopathic science. We were discussing last part over there where the physics, the material science comes to an end and they cannot explain. Then they start explaining about the metaphysical concepts. To the dynamic entities, they label with the name of metaphysical, that is beyond their physics. It goes beyond that, is a metaphysics. Many assumptions we have to do when we learn a physics because it is the materially you cannot fulfill the things, and that's why we have to take the help of certain assumptions, and those are always dynamic. So last part, which he was explaining over there, where this dynamics is there, that dynamics is basically lies in the life of the human being, the life principle. This life principle is the main thing. This is the Hahnemann's voyage from 5th to 6th edition, last 10 years, and he was coming to the truth that it was not vital force, it was vital energy, and vital energy is produced because of some life force or vital force. Now, life principle or vital principle, which is the source, which is autocratic, having its own source of energy. And this energy itself is important for the human being. If it has been lost, it remains a body. Then it remains only a material. This life energy is a substantial energy, or this life principle is the substantial entity which cannot express without the body. So this is what we were discussing in last lecture. We were there on page number 35 and we were reading the first paragraph. Life then is not primarily a phenomenon. It is the cause of phenomena. This is what we have discussed. Life is the cause of phenomena. It itself is not phenomenon. Life is not strictly speaking a force. It is a substance, a power, or a principle which acts to exert or cause force. Life is substantial. Very important. Underline each and every quality of life. Substantial, self-existent, self-acting entity, not mere an abstraction. So all qualities lies in the life. Life is not a product, it is a producer, whether it may be matter or motion. In brief, life is intelligent, incorporeal vital substance, the original simple substance of the ancients. And this paragraph we have concluded in the last lecture, and we have discussed that these are all qualities of the life principle which is there inside us. This life, if you understand, then it becomes rather simple to understand the human being. Life is a dynamical sense, is energy. the universal principle and cause of the vital action and reactions, organization, growth, self-preservation, and reproduction inherent in all living things. These are all qualities of the life principle. We take into consideration anyone if he is living animated only on the basis of certain specific things. There is organization, there is growth, there is self-preservation, there is a reproduction, all those qualities of living beings. And those living beings are nothing but the life principle. These are all qualities of life principle. Life, therefore, is included under the general principle of science, which declares that all force is persistent and indestructible. This is physics law. All things, all force is persistent and indestructible. This is the law of physics. The matter is indestructible. That is also a law of physics. And this is the same thing which we are discussing when we are thinking about the human being. When we are thinking about the human being, it is very specifically the material which is you cannot destruct completely. And second important thing, life principle itself is indestructible. It is continuous. And this is the scientific statement of doctrine of immortality. So see, doctrine of immortality means your life principle is not an entity which has a death. It is immortal. It remains forever. It is endless process. And that's why it remains. Only thing is that it changes its body. It goes from one body to another body, but it is there. Energy must exist before work can be done. Hence, life and mind logically and necessarily precede organization, and thus must be not only the cause but the control power of the organization. Life built the body and life preserves it as long as it is needed for the purpose of our indwelling rational spirit, as Hahnemann calls it. So, what is the function of this life principle? It produces, develops the body. First important, the production. That's why the law of biological development is there. The functions creates organs. And who defines the functions? The life principle itself defines the functions. And that's why you go on developing. So from single stem cell, we develop as a human being with multiple complex systems, and all are developed from the same cell. Who asked them to function and define that you must change accordingly. This is the life principle. So first important function of it is organization and development. And then the second important function is to preserve that. That is another important function. All schools of modern philosophy now agree that life can come only from previous life. A scientific doctrine, theory of spontaneous generation, after centuries of stubbornly contested existence, has been abandoned by all except a very few stubborn persons of materialistic school who still cling to the ancient fallacy, unaware that the ground has been cut from under them and that they have been left like a Mahomet coffin suspended in midair. Life comes from previous life. This is the law which has been followed in biology. And since long time it has been followed. This is half truth. This is not a complete truth. The truth is that life comes from previous life for some time, till the life principle enters inside that fertilized egg. Once it has entered, then the further organization, then the further development, then the further growth starts. Without that, it never starts. The reproduction never starts. So it doesn't mean that life comes from previous life. Yes, life comes from previous life for a period of 24 to 48 hours. But if during that period, the life principle never enters over there inside that fertilized egg, it dies. It is thrown away. It is then we label that it is a blighted home. It is not a, it doesn't carry a life there. No. So definitely life principle is something which should enter inside that fertilized egg, and then life really develops. And that's why the law which has been there in the biology is the half truth. Life comes from previous life. And he has criticized that concept, old school concept. Step by step, with many long periods of inactivity and sometimes retrogression, the search for origin of the life has gone on. Repeatedly, when brought up against the logical necessity of taking the final step and acknowledging the one infinite and eternal source of life, the searchers have stubbornly turned back and begun over again, only to return to the same inescapable point. So, still, they are not coming to the perfect truth because they are not taking into consideration what is life principle. Unless you understand the concept of life principle, you will not come to the conclusion of where the life begins. Life never comes from the previous life. The part of it is truth, but unless and until life principle enters over there, it is not further life. Chemist, physicist, and biologist alike, each in its own special path, pursues it to the end, and there finds himself standing with his fellows on the brink of great mystery, which can only be solved by admitting the existence of Supreme Being. Unless and until you come to the dynamics, the material science never explains anything. Whether it is chemistry, whether it's physics, whether it is biology, unless and until you take into consideration the concept of supreme being, it is not possible to explain many things. Here he wants to explain the supreme being, a concept of God or concept of a life principle. All are substantial. They don't have their existence because they are dynamic. Unless and until they enters inside the body, you cannot say that there is something like that. And that's why it is called as a substantial entity. So we have to differentiate what is life principle, what is mind, what is the body, and all those things together makes the whole human being. And to conclude chapter, what it says is very important. The chemist, guided by the law of chemical affinity and molecular attraction, reaches the sphere of universal attraction. He stops and turns away. The biology, tracing light back through the organism to the cell and still further back to the formless bit of protoplasm lying, as it were, on the shore of infinite ocean of his life, also hats and turns away, rather than spread the cells of his little bark and sail by the faith, if he must, into the heaven, which is plain view of which is in plain view, if he will but open his eyes and look. The physicist analyzes matter, divides and subdivides it until it disappears in the hypothetical, inanimate, unintelligible ether of the space, which he conceives to be a source both of matter and force. And there he also halts. Each in is unsatisfied and must ever remain so until, like Hahnemann, he yields to that innermost urge of soul which demands of every man that he take the final step and acknowledge the infinite life and mind in of the universe and the source and the substance of all power, the Father eternal, to whom he owes spiritual allegiance. Very nicely Close had put it in at the end. He concluded that at certain level, chemistry stops. At certain level, physics stops. At a certain level, biology stops because all these three sciences deals with the materials. They never enters into the immaterial entity. They never takes into consideration what is immaterial, what is life principle, what is life vital energy, what is vital force, what is mind, what is spirituality. They never enters into that. And because of which they are all explaining the half truths, not complete truth. Unless we take the help of dynamics, it is not possible to understand everything. And that's why when the materialistic school philosophy comes and comes together with the idealistic school of philosophy and makes themselves a substantialist, it is not possible to understand the holistic concept of human being. And unless you understand the holistic concept of human being, it is not possible to understand how the disease originates. So, in this chapter, he has made your mind clear regarding the concepts of human being. And once you understand those concepts, then it becomes rather simple to understand what is health and what is disease. So we have finished one more important chapter from the Stuart Close. I think only one chapter is still remaining from the Stuart Close. Otherwise, everything we have finished. So very important chapter, uh, the schools of philosophies, which we have discussed. I think the last chapter which was remaining over there, that is the logic of homeopathy. And in next lecture, we'll start with that and we'll discuss the logic. The logic which is explained by Stuart Close is rather little bit hard to understand, but it is necessary to understand. I will try my level best to make it more and more simple so that you will not get any problem in understanding the concepts of logic. So that's all for today. We'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.